All right, we got some major NFL news to dive into here on Verts. I'm your host, Harrison Graham. Ian Rapoport providing, quite frankly, a massive update on the Brandon Aiyuk situation between San Francisco and Pittsburgh. We'll dive into that. Plus, J.J. McCarthy needs surgery for a torn meniscus. What does an injury timetable look like? We'll examine that as well. But before we get into all of that, this is why you subscribe. When big NFL news stories drop, we're going to react to them here on this channel. We just crossed 1,500 subscribers. If you want to help us get to 2,000 as soon as possible, I would appreciate it. Your love and support helps this channel grow, so hit that sub button for 100% free. Is a Brandon Aiyuk trade imminent? Certainly feels like it could be. Rapoport reporting that Pittsburgh and San Francisco have a trade in place pending final San Francisco sign-off, while also Brandon Aiyuk has an extension offer on the table from San Francisco, which he hasn't accepted as of yet. So what does that tell us? If the deal's in place, why is it not done? If the trade is already in place, this is what it tells me. The wheels are in motion. I think San Francisco is going to communicate to Aiyuk and his agent, probably already have today, and say, look, we have a trade on the table now from Pittsburgh that is acceptable to us, just like we did with New England, just like we did with Cleveland. Now we do with Pittsburgh, a team you told us you would like to go to. Here's our contract offer that's still on the table. Take 24 hours and make a decision. That's kind of what I think we're seeing right now. I would guess Brandon Aiyuk sleeps on this tonight, wakes up tomorrow, decides, do I want to stay with San Francisco? Do I want to chase a Super Bowl with the 49ers? Or do I want to make a little bit more money with the Steelers and go there and try to blossom with a new team? That's kind of how I'm reading this situation. But the thing that was holding this up before was that San Francisco didn't like the trade offers on the table from Pittsburgh. So that gets me to my next talking point. What is the trade exactly? If this trade goes through, what has changed? Has Pittsburgh offered a specific player that helps San Francisco stay in this win-now Super Bowl mode? Not that they have no chance without Aiyuk, but as we've discussed, their passing game would certainly take a hit. I don't think George Pickens is on the table. There's not another receiver that really moves the needle on the Steelers roster that they could send to San Francisco. Calvin Austin III has been discussed, but he's more of a gadget guy. Is offensive lineman James Daniels on the table? Pat Freiermuth, is that a name that could be a possibility? It's not a receiver, but maybe you get a nice tight end to pair with George Kittle. I just am very curious what has changed from San Francisco's end, and maybe not a lot has changed. Maybe the Niners are just kind of sick of this, and they're like, you know what? We'll take Pittsburgh's best offer and just go with it. Brandon, make a decision within 24 hours. Maybe that's the case. But look, if they lose Aiyuk here and don't get a meaningful player in return, I kind of think they're in trouble this season and maybe for this window, because you feel like the door is closing to win a Super Bowl, at least for the big chunk of this core. Trent Williams, who, by the way, is still holding out, 35-year-old left tackle. George Kittle's getting older, has an injury history. Fred Warner's not 25 years old anymore. Debo, his production has dipped off in recent years. Is he going to, bounce back and be what he was a couple of years ago when he carried the Niners to the NFC Championship game? Without Brandon Aiyuk, there's a bit of an unknown of how explosive this offense can be. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey's still there, but you just get that feeling that, did they miss their chance? Did they miss their chance to win a Super Bowl by not sealing the deal in 2019 with Jimmy Garoppolo, by not closing the door last year when they had a 10-point lead in the second half against Kansas City and lost in overtime? I think if they can work this out, this might be their best chance yet. But remember, starting next year, you're probably going to have to pay Brock Purdy. And a lot of your core pieces are a year older. Trent Williams is year to year at this point. So my take is that if this Aiyuk thing doesn't get resolved in San Francisco and he does get traded, I kind of think the NFC becomes wide open. I still think San Francisco's a contender to be in the Super Bowl, but I think their chances of winning it get diminished a little bit. And I think a team like Detroit, Green Bay, they look at this. Dallas maybe, Philadelphia, hey, why not us this year? They just lost a key player offensively in Brandon Aiyuk and don't have a receiver that can consistently separate without him. Again, I don't know what the trade is from Pittsburgh, but I don't think George Pickens is going to the Bay in a trade. Maybe they find another trade to bring in a different receiver to help replace him, but this would be a notable loss and not an easy one to absorb if you're the 49ers, but it sounds like they've come to the conclusion that they're at least willing to do it if he ultimately decides that's what he wants to do. So the ball is completely in Aiyuk's court at this point. Sign the deal on the table with San Francisco or go to the Steelers because according to Ian Rapoport, one of the top insiders in the game, the framework of a trade has been agreed to. Okay, let's get to some injury news. J.J. McCarthy tore his meniscus. It appears at some point during the game on Saturday when I thought he played pretty well, to be honest. Threw an early interception but bounced back after that. Said his knee was sore, did an MRI, tore meniscus, is going to undergo surgery. And the latest report is we don't really know what the injury timetable is because a meniscus is one of those where until the doctors open him up and look in there, they don't know if they just have to repair a minor tear or the entire thing essentially. So if it's a minor tear, it could be 4 to 6 weeks. He could be back, week 2, week 3 potentially, which is perfectly fine because the expectation is that Sam Darnold is going to start week 1 anyway. But if it's a full meniscus tear that they have to repair, he could miss the entire season. So we won't know for a couple of days here. We'll see when the surgery actually happens. But certainly a bummer, right? It's not the end of the world. Like if this was Jaden Daniels or Caleb Williams for the Bears and the Commanders, they're already entrenched to start. I mean, that just, you lose a year if they're out for the season. With the Vikings, yes, you'd like to play McCarthy this year, and ideally at some point you put him in there, but he's probably not going to start week 1. He needs to develop a little bit more than some of these other guys. If it's on the shorter end and he can return at some point this season, I think this is okay. You've got Sam Darnold, a placeholder guy that can play. The Vikings can be competitive, and then once JJ's back, if Sam is struggling, they can put him in there. If he's out for the season, that obviously sucks because if you're a Vikings fan and it's week 6 and you're 1-4 or whatever, and you're like, hey, let's see the young guy go in there, well, you can't put him in there if he's out for the season. So fingers crossed that this isn't season ending. It's more on the minor end of things. But for now, that's what we know, that he does need surgery. And the doctors will find out once they put him under if it's more on the minor standpoint or major standpoint, which would require a full repair with that meniscus. So we'll continue to follow along that story. And, of course, we're on Aiyuk Trade Watch. If a trade goes down, we're going to cover it here on Verts. So hit that subscribe button. We will continue to keep you in the loop with all the top NFL and college football stories. I also have a Deion Sanders video coming out. He had another recent spat with the media, and just kind of wonder what his game plan is with some of the things he's done at Colorado, especially as of late. So stay tuned for that. My name is Harrison Graham. Hit that subscribe button. We'll see you guys soon.